Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So a lot of young guys took that next step to become legitimate stars in the NHL after there was honestly some questions about them, whether they ever would live up to expectations. So today, I wanted to run through my top 10 most improved players in the 2023-2024 season. How I'm defining this is I'm going to go with guys under the age of 25. Not saying that you can't get better past the age of 25, but I'm looking for guys that, again, really took that jump as young guys than say maybe someone that was like a Sam Reinhart that just shot 25%. He was improved this season, but he also just got some puck luck. So young guys that took that step, and we're only going to look at, not forwards, we're only going to look at skaters, no goalies, because goalies can be kind of like voodoo. You can have one fantastic season, then fall off a cliff the next. So skaters under the age of 25. Without further ado, let's dive into it. At number 10, I have Alexis Lafreniere. When looking at him, 16 goals, 23 assists, 39 points last year in 81 games. Gets the bump up to that second line, rightfully so. He deserved it and puts up 28 goals, 29 assists for 57 points. He's sniffing 30 and 30. And what really impressed me this season was his willingness to shoot it more. When looking at it, he shot 217 shots on goal. Compare that to last year, only 135. As well as his overall vision. I think his playmaking, he was seeing passing lanes far better this season. And as a result, Lafreniere, Panarin, Trocheck, one of the best lines in the entire NHL. It obviously helped his production playing with Artemi Panarin, a heart-level Artemi Panarin. But I think if you just watched him, and I watched a decent amount of Ranger games, he was a far better player last year than, say, last year when he was timid and would just be invisible at times, especially last year in the playoffs. He really just became a staple of this New York Rangers offense. And I think going forward, I don't know if he's ever going to become the franchise player that we expected when he went first overall, but it looks like the Rangers have a future stud first liner on their hands. And as an Islanders fan, I can admit that. I'm unbiased like that. Next up, another guy that went in that 2020 draft that has been fantastic this season. I am going to go with Lucas Raymond. Now, when looking at Lucas Raymond, it definitely was an improvement, but it also was last year was a down year, a sophomore slump, you can call it. He had 45 points. Rookie season, he had 57, but he definitely built off that rookie year production, going for 31 goals, 41 assists for 72 points. And when looking at it, Alex DeBrincat had a great first 10 games of the season, but from game 11 all the way to game 82, he was probably the second best player on the Detroit Red Wings. DeBrincat did slow down in production. I still think Larkin's a better overall player than Lucas Raymond, but he was fantastic. And when looking at it down the stretch, he had I believe 36 points in their final 37 games. He really took that next step. Even when Larkin was out, he put the team on his back when they were struggling, even though they were losing some games. He was the only guy showing up, and he had the physical and skill-wise tools in that first season, and even in the second season. It just seems like he fully put it together this year and became a fantastic first liner. So when looking at Lucas Raymond, took a decent jump this season, and going forward, I think he is going to be a potential franchise forward for the Detroit Red Wings. Next up, the Dallas Stars. Wyatt Johnston, baby, 24 goals, 17 assists, 41 points. Should have got more Calder votes last year, but this year really breaks out. 32 goals, 33 assists, 65 points. And when looking at him, he was their third line center, and he put up that level of production. They did have a loaded third line once they brought up Logan Stankoven, and it was him and Jamie Benn. But I think last year he didn't like ride shot. Yeah, he kind of rode shotgun on the Blues, but middle six. This year, it was definitely more so him driving that third line. Again, Jamie Benn and Stankoven are good players, but his playmaking elevated so much. Last year, again, 17 assists in only 81 games. This year, 33, as well as having a fantastic shot. This guy doesn't get any power play time, similar to a Lafreniere. Don't get power play one, and he was so goddamn productive. It looks like they have their future second line center. He's going to be one of the best second line centers, and he might one day even pass Rupe Hintz in 4 to 5 years once Hintz hits his 30s. He was fantastic this season, and a massive reason why the Dallas Stars were the best team in the Western Conference. Needs to pick it up a little bit in the playoffs so they can come back from this 2-0 deficit, but that's another story. We're talking about the regular season right now. Next up, Noah Dobson. Now, Noah Dobson obviously emerged as a arguably top 10 defenseman in the entire NHL. The only reason he's not higher is this is relative. Last year, he was still a 49-point very good offensive defenseman. But again, this year really stepped up into that number one role that has been severely lacking for the New York Islanders. You think about them basically for my entire life. They have not had that elite offensive defenseman. They've had very good. Adam Pelech, 2020 and 2021, was one of the best defensive defenseman in the entire NHL. But the Islanders finally got their franchise offensive blue liner, 70 points in 76 games. He was able to take on a huge workload. Last year, he only played 20-30 a night. This year, played 24-31. So he has really emerged as the Islanders' number one defenseman just when they needed that. Because Pelech and Polak are not looking that good nowadays, Dobson thankfully filled that gap and added so much offense to this team to make the Islanders, although they are playing a pretty boring series against Carolina, besides like the final 5 minutes of the last game. But the Islanders are not the insanely boring team that they used to be, in part because Noah Dobson is just so goddamn fun to watch, and I'm very happy that he is on my team. Number 6, JJ Peterka. Last year, 12 goals, 32 points. This year, 28 goals, 22 assists, 50 points. And it's not like he just shot it 22%. He only shot it at a 12.4% clip. Last year, he had 125 shots in 77 games. This year, 226 in 82. So let me do some math. From around, 1.5 to now 2.5 a game. He's finding way more lanes and just shooting it at a higher clip, and as a result, the production has followed. I think the line of him, Benson, and Cousins is going to be one of the best second lines in the entire NHL very shortly. They played very good together on not that good of a Buffalo team this season. They had a 51% expected goals percentage. That is a fantastic line, and Peterka has really elevated his game. I thought he could be a decent middle sixer for them. I think he's going to be a stud second liner, future 30 and 30. He almost had 30 goals this season, so I think he could be a 30 and 30 goal guy, even if he does just stay on that second line. Buffalo's future. Peterka was probably like the 6th or 7th best in terms of future that I thought they had in their system. He shot up the ranks this year and is one of the most valuable pieces going forward. Number 5, Seth Jarvis. Similarly to Raymond, he had a bit of a down sophomore season, and it was mainly because he shot 7.5%. He had, I believe, 14 goals, 25 assists, 39 points in 82 games after having 40 and 66 as a rookie. So had a bit of a sophomore slump, but it was because he just wasn't able to finish for the most part. This year, the finishing absolutely exploded when looking at Jarvis. He had 33 goals, 34 assists for 67 points. One of the best two-way wingers in the entire NHL for the most part. He's on my Selke ballot. He was that good defensively. He's really the perfect Rod Brindamore two-way winger. He's able to throw the body. I think he had over 60, 70 hits this season. He was fantastic. He really emerged when the Carolina Hurricanes needed him to. He's going to be a restricted free agent this summer. That's going to be very interesting to see how much he gets paid, because I think he's right now worth $7.5 million. I don't think that's ridiculous based on what he did. He just perfect physicality, skill, even some speed he has mixed in there. I'm really looking forward to Seth Jarvis going forward and seeing how much he gets paid. At number 4, Evan Bouchard, 40 points last year in 82 games. This year, 82 points in 81 games. You could make an argument that he should be the number 1 on this list, arguably, because he was my 3rd best defenseman in the entire NHL. He was 3rd on my Norris ballot this season. But I do think that part of that bump in production was because of Tyson Barrie getting traded. Bouchard became that number 1 defenseman. We saw it at the end of last year. He was fantastic. And in the playoffs, he had like 17 points in 12 games. So I think it was in part getting on that top power play, but he was not a power play merchant this season. He was not a power play merchant by any stretch. He finished 4th in the NHL in points by defenseman, 5th in even strength, tied with Cale Makar. So he was able to do it at even strength as well as power play. But once you get that bump to that power play, you're going to go next level. Him and Ekholm were so fantastic. And I think Bouchard, arguably his defensive strides that he made this season were more impressive than his offensive. When looking at it, he really focused on his defense. Didn't make as many, say, stupid mistakes that we saw in his first 2 seasons, which he was prone to do. It was a little bit shaky early on when the Oilers were on their losing streak, but the goaltending really did him no favors if he made the slightest mistake. I think Evan Bouchard, in front of our eyes, is developing into a top 10 defenseman in the entire NHL. Fantastic season for him. At number 3, Quinton Byfield. Last year, 3 goals, 19 assists, 22 points in 53 games. He said that he was playing with double sprained wrists. I was like, oh my God, how's that even possible? I don't even that is insane. And clearly that was maybe the case, considering now, not a goal scoring machine by any stretch, but 25 goals, 35 assists for 55 points. At times has looked like the best forward on that top line with Anze Kopitar and Adrian Kempe. I think those guys are better overall players, but Byfield really fit in. It's not like he was dragged by those guys in terms of production. He's so fluid as a skater at his size, given his size, that he's a beast in transition. We saw the highlight reel goals that he was able to score, maybe goal of the season this year, but just on a nightly basis. It's going to be really hard to stop this guy now that he's able to put it all together. It took some time, but akin to a Tage Thompson, these taller guys, it's not always going to click right away. It does take some time, so it's good that LA waited this out, because Quinton Byfield has turned into a legit first liner that has franchise potential right now. At number 2, another big boy, Slafkovsky, but he put it together at 19 years old this season. 6 goals, 4 assists, 10 points in 39 games last year. He just didn't really look ready for the NHL, and rightfully so. He was 18 coming over from Europe. It's not like he was dominating in Europe in terms of production either. They rushed him that first year, and as a result, I thought he should have started the season in the AHL. And he actually did have a slow start this season. He only had like 7 points in his first 25 games, but his final 53 games puts up 43 points. Was fantastic. I think he was better than Cole Caulfield during that stretch. Suzuki was also awesome, but he really fit in on that top line. For him, the vision that this guy has at 6'4" and only 19 years old, the passing lanes that he's able to find was very impressive. In that rookie year, he was trying to do too much himself, too much bully ball. That doesn't work in the NHL. When you're an 18-year-old, you're not going to get away with that. This year, he was far more of a team-oriented guy, and as a result, his personal scoring went up. He was able to find his teammates, and in return, his teammates found him. And going forward, the comparison that everybody's throwing out is Mikko Rantanen, and I 1,000% see that potentially. And he was more productive in, I believe, his second year in the NHL, or his draft year +2, than Mikko Rantanen. So he's trending very good. Everybody was ridiculous for calling him a bust after his first season. That was mainly Leafs and Senators fans that were mad. I was maybe a little bit lower on him after that, but he was only 18 years old. People had to relax, and now Slafkovsky is fully breaking out, and next year should hit 65, 70 points. I don't think that's ridiculous considering his final 53 games this season. And lastly, at number 1, some of you guys might be saying right now, who the hell is number 1 if it's not Slafkovsky? It's Thomas Harley. By the way, there's no rookies on this list. Just one. I thought I made that obvious at the front, but maybe I didn't. It's Thomas Harley. Thomas Harley played 35, 40 games 2 years ago. Last year, did see some NHL action, but mainly in the AHL. This year, absolutely fantastic. 15 goals, 32 assists, 47 points, playing around 21-30 a night, being Dallas's number 2. Again, Dallas, that was the best team in the entire Western Conference. He played legitimately like a top 50, top 40 defenseman in the entire NHL after not being an NHLer at all last year. So I think when you look at the strides that he made this season, he's such a fantastic skater, and especially his on-puck prowess and offensive capabilities is so present, and it just wasn't the case when he played in the NHL 2 years ago. It was the right move to send him to the AHL last year, let him dominate. He put up a decent amount of points last year, get that confidence up, and now he is one of the better two-way defensemen in the entire NHL. And yes, he does play with Miro Heiskanen, but even without Miro Heiskanen, he puts up fantastic results, and you just watch the two of them play together, and it's just fantastic. It's fantastic to watch them, and going forward, I think Thomas Harley is going to be one of the better defensemen in the entire NHL, going from maybe 5 to 10% of NHL fans knowing his name. I did, but knowing his name to now not being a household name, but being widely regarded as a very, very good top pairing defenseman. Thomas Harley, in my opinion, is the most improved player in the entire NHL this season. So let's run it down. Lafreniere 10, Raymond 9, Johnston 8, Dobson 7, Peterka 6, Jarvis 5, Bouchard 4, Byfield 3, Slaf 2, Harley number 1. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Anybody else that I missed? Again, I don't know if I said it at the start, but no rookies, because you can't really improve like if we haven't seen you fully at the NHL level. Harley almost was a rookie, but he played 35, 40 games his first season. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? Who'd you move up? Who'd you move down? Who'd you put on? Who'd you take out? I'll be seeing the next one.